Sports Shooting Stars, we bring the game to you. And Tuesday night, we got another barn burner as Spring Grove, the Rockets, travel to Red Lion to go against the Red Lion Lions. And right now, I got my man with me, Coach Jared Smith. Coach, thanks for jumping on with us.
No problem.
So, you did a little Google searching about you here, and it says you're part of the Spring Grove Hall of Fame, man. Is that right?
True, true. Yep.
That is no. Wait, you actually? I saw it was 2015. You went in the same year as Coach Wilson went in as well.
Yeah, they did a huge when they started the Hall of Fame, they did a huge induction. They wanted to try and get in a lot of the
Okay,
going back to way before me too and even some after me. So they did do a big induction, because they didn't have it to try and catch it up
that's what
to
it
to
was.
all the ones that were there. So yeah, it was a big group that had gone in at that time.
That's awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you also. I mean, as a sophomore, I had to guard you every day in practice, which was probably the best possible thing that could happen to me. And I got to go play at Slippery Rock Division Two, and I'm guarding these guys. I'm like, well, these guys can't play like Jared did. So hats off to you on that, man. And I saw
I
your
appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, that was the perfect scenario for me. And um, crazy enough, I was telling you, Red Lion was one of my biggest rivals, and now I live in the Red Lion area. I coach some of the youth teams at Red Lion. So our stat guy Carter Scappa does the Scappa report, and he's dubbing this the Marcellus matchup Tuesday. This is kind of my dream show right here. So you guys are having a great season, coming in 6-3, Coach. Your first season, running the varsity squad.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this season so far for the ones that don't know?
Yeah, we're so we when I took over, we spent a lot of time in the off season working on our game. We had a lot of guys that needed game reps because I have five seniors this year and they probably had two or three games tops between all of them worth of varsity time. A couple, two, three of them didn't even play any varsity. Um, so we spent a lot of time in the off season just trying to get game reps and against good schools, like anywhere we could go. We went to college shootouts, did summer league, just like all the other teams do. We probably did a little more than a lot of them do because I don't know that we'll always do as many games as we did, but we just knew we had to, if we wanted to hit the ground running, I had to catch some of the kids up. We use a lot of terminology, a lot of it's new for them. They did have some Ryan Eisenhart, who was the coach before, did a good job. And he had the program going in the right direction. He doesn't get credit for it like he should because when he took that over, I think they had three wins the season before he took over, and I think they had zero his first year. It's a lot of work to come out of that,
Yeah.
and it can be very very difficult when you're losing like that. So it's tough for Spring Grove. We're a 5A school and we're a bigger 5A, but in Division One we're the smallest school because they're all 6A. So we're in a unique spot and we won't let that be an excuse for our kids. It's a challenge, and if you look at it the right way for us, if you're winning games, we're gonna set ourselves up for district standings pretty well. So that's the way you have to look at it. And really, if we were in, say, a division with all 5A schools that might be maybe not as tough or something, we'd be out seeking harder games anyway. So, at the end of the day, we get 12 scheduled for us every year without having to think about it. So that's what we do.
Yeah, there's some monsters on there.
Yep.
Central, York High,
Yep.
and we talked about Red Lion.
Yep.
Red Lion
Red
just
Nine's been good. They've
yeah,
been good.
kind of reminds me of the old Keezy teams where they just every year they seem to be right there again and six
Yeah,
and
they're
one.
they're disciplined. They play disciplined. I've watched them enough over the years here. Their coach does a good job with them. So they're they probably have a smaller team than they've been used to, for quite some years. So that's an interesting dynamic to it. But um, we, welcome to the rest of the rest of us, right? Like, so this might be one of our bigger teams we've had for years, and we're still not that big. We're just not, we don't have a bunch of 5'2" guys running around out there.
Nothing
No
wrong with that.
offense.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
But
There's not
yeah,
many of those out there.
it's we don't have any 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" plus
Yeah.
guys either, so that makes it a challenge. But again, it's the same thing. Like Red Lions winning, and they don't have that, and you got to pay attention to the boxing out, the rebounding, the fundamentals. So, but the boys they've done well. They're a good group. There's no egos. I watch them a lot. They get along very well. They're very, very accepting of their teammates, and so that's a huge positive for them going forward. So they want to generate assists. They want to make, you know what I mean. They don't care who's scoring. If somebody has a hot hand, they're trying to find them. So it's been good so far.
Well, I mentioned our stat guy at one
Yeah.
game, Carter Scappa, was like, they have this one kid, Smith. He's throwing all the 3-pointers up, making them. I'm like, yeah, well, that's most likely his kid,
Yeah.
Cooper Smith. So
That.
he comes in as the leading scorer. But like you mentioned, there's looks like a lot of juniors getting a lot of playing time for you now,
Yep.
Coach.
Yep. Yeah. We have a good mix of junior seniors. We have a sophomore that gets pretty good minutes too. Actually, Jordan Eisenhart, that's Ryan, previous
Nice.
coach's son. So and he's done a good job. He's I guess he'd be the shortest guy on the varsity team. But I think he's second in offensive rebounds for us. So it shows you right there, right? Like size doesn't always matter. So yeah, they're doing a good job, and I'm happy the direction we're taking, the challenges we put laid out for them. They're meeting it, and they know we gotta dig in. We have a big week this week. We have 3 games. I think the rest of the season we're 3 and 4 games a week. So it's not a lot of practice time coming up, which as players you love it. As coaches, you maybe not so much. But
Yes, back when we were playing, we loved that. So, well,
yes.
this one is Tuesday. We're telling everybody come out to the Lions Den, come see it in person. If you can't, you can watch it on Sports Shooting Stars. And Coach, I am so pumped up. This is the first time I'm doing a Spring Grove game, and I've been itching it. I'm ready for it, man. It's
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
I'm sure they'll be excited too. They were wondering why they weren't in the mix originally, so this will make them happy.
Yeah, well, they deserve it. Yeah, tell them they definitely deserve it, and it's gonna be awesome. Tip off is at 7 o'clock. I'll be on the mic along with a guy by the name of Coach Warren Goodling, and
Yep.
I know you're familiar. Your dad
Yep.
actually played with Coach back in West York.
Yep.
Uh,
West York, long time ago.
yeah, he's got
Yep.
quite the track record as well. So, and Jared, I got to ask you this. I know York
Yeah.
Daily Record did a thing about the greatest athletes in York County, and you were mentioned on there. Now, do you feel like soccer or basketball? Which one if you had to go down and that was the
That's
one?
funny.
Which
I get asked all the time, which was my favorite. It depended where I was at and what season I was in at that time, right? Like when you start to get burnt out, you like the other one. But um, I don't know. I played them both year round. The only time I did not was when I was in season with one. I was probably an even more dominant soccer player than basketball. There was a lot of good basketball players. Heck, my class alone was unreal. When you go back through and you look at that 93 class, how many 1,000-point scorers and school record holders. My assistant JV coach is Mike
I,
Shue,
I
who's
was
still
gonna say that. Yeah.
he has Lock Haven scoring records still. Scotty Dahl, Blaine Claiborne. You had every school. I just saw some schools again that I totally forgot about had 1,000 point. I'm like, you had Tommy Campbell at Dallastown. You had there was a Kaler, I think Paul Kaler maybe at Delone. Just about every school. Ryan Billett was Suburban. Adam Miller down in Kennerdale.
Jeez.
You know, it went on and on. It's still I still like looking back at all the schools when they do the 1,000-point scores and looking at the names, and that class was still the most loaded for, guys that had 1,000 points or plus. So yeah, it maybe we all did because we were so competitive coming up through, you know what I mean? Kind of like you said with practice with playing against me all the time. I it does. Like, even the youth teams when I was coaching at the Central Youth Program with that group I had, they were extremely competitive, and our practices were probably harder than any games they played, because we got after it. So um, sometimes I had to tone them down and remind them your teammates, you're not, more to
Was this the
win.
AAU team you're talking about? Because you
That
had the
was that was Central. That was just a traveling program
okay,
when we lived in there. So
yeah, you guys had a
Cooper was
crazy team.
yeah, he was on with Brian Brown and Ryan Jackson at Central and Isaiah Holland, who's with us. Evan Bischoff at York Catholic is doing a real nice job out there. Ty Maxfield in at York High. They're all the kids are pretty much still playing somewhere. So it was a loaded group. So it obviously helped Central a little bit, right? So
Well, yeah, with the state championship. But what I was asking, you guys played together, you and Shu, the
oh
both
yeah.
Shoes, John Shu, Mike Shu, and
Yeah, we played we back then they didn't have AAU around here, like it is. That was you'd probably have to go to Philadelphia or Baltimore back then, and even then it just wasn't that big. But I would always play. I always said I was a child of two worlds in basketball because of my dad running New York Boys Club. I always grew up playing that style, where your fast break,
yeah,
it's very fast. And that's one of those where you learn real quick, like you keep what you kill, and if you're not you don't get after it, you're not going to get the ball, you get a chance to score. But then I would play with the Catholic system over the summers, with kids like Christian Kesey, Mike's son, and those kids, and it was a little more disciplined style, you know what I mean? Slow it down a little more sometimes. Um, so yeah, so I got both of those coming up, you know what I mean? And it was good, and it's probably the way I coach now too. Like we don't play any particular one style. I like to be multiple. I like to be able to do different things with different teams. So that's what we're working towards with the program.
that's awesome. Well, you mentioned Mike Shu, and when I was at
Yeah.
Slippery Rock, he was at Lock Haven,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget at halftime, our coach was screaming, and he said we had this kid Yahasa Stone. We brought him off the bench. He was a huge guy, and he just said, when Mike Shu comes around the corner, you take this elbow and you put it right in his nose. You pop him, and he laid Mike out. Mike was bleeding. And Mike finished the game. I think we lost, and Mike still scored probably 30, 35 on us. But
Right.
and I told Mike that story. He's like, it happened all the time. He's like,
Yeah.
they would just come out try to take my head off.
Well, and we called it, so that was the PSAC conference, right? But we always called it PHAC because it was atrocious, and soccer it was the same way. It was just brutal at times. I remember my first 2 years up there, I played on the defensive side for soccer, because that's where my coach had seen me in high school and didn't realize I was a goal scorer and all that. So, and I don't care. You're giving me scholarship money. I'll play where you ask me to. And I kind of enjoyed that though, because I got to deliver more hits than I got, right? And then when I started playing forward towards the end of my sophomore year, it takes its toll on you. I had two separated shoulders. I still can't shoot right with shooting a basketball and that. I don't have power in my right arm from because I never went and really got them checked out. So yeah, it was a tough conference. Like it still is. They just bang and bang and bang. So that doesn't surprise me at all. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's gonna be awesome. I'm so happy. First time having a guest on that I actually played with back
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the legendary Spring Grove
We're getting
days.
old. We're
Yeah,
getting old.
yeah, getting more experienced and smarter. And
Yes.
gravity's hitting me a little bit, but
Yeah.
besides that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hit me too. I'm an inch shorter than I was in high school.
But
So
I keep getting served ads on Facebook for these like 3-inch lift shoes. So maybe that's what I need. But I'm like, who is telling them this?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well,
I,
I'm pretty convinced they're listening to you
oh
because
yeah, they're
it's
definitely listening.
funny. My
Well, if
wife
they're
and I have
listening, they
a
gotta listen
conversation.
this Tuesday, man. Get
Yeah,
it out.
I'm excited.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be awesome, man. I can't wait to get out there. And like I said, if you can't make it, shoot on to Sports Shooting Stars. We bring the game.
We bring the
to
game
you.
to you.
Contact us, sportshootingstars@gmail.com.